I'm actually fascinated by Nixon as a character in history. I think that his historical legacy is enjoying a bit of a renaissance, but I think deservedly so. As I joked with Robert backstage, if Watergate happened tomorrow, it would be like a 12-hour news story. Like, the idea that it would have taken down a presidency is crazy. And by the way, if you look at the story of how the deep state took down Richard Nixon, it's not all that different from what the same groups of people, the same institutions tried to do to Donald Trump in the first Trump administration. There is a parallel. I also, just at a personal level, young senator, vice president, writes some best-selling books, is hated by the media. It kind of sounds like J.D. Vance. So I'm a little, I've always liked Richard Nixon.
So, a lot to cover there. First things first, let's talk about Richard Nixon himself, and then let's talk about what J.D. Vance said about Watergate and how it would be viewed in today's political environment. First things first, Richard Nixon is probably one of the better presidents we've ever had. He's certainly one of the best presidents, if not one of the top two presidents, him and Obama, in my lifetime. And I know that there are going to be people that are already starting to type, what the fuck are you talking about? Do not get me wrong. Richard Nixon did horrible things. Richard Nixon, underneath, was a very, very hateful racist. And he needs to be remembered for the shit that he did, but he also needs to be given credit for the things that he did. And before we get into what he said about Watergate, what J.D. Vance said about Watergate, I want you guys who don't understand about Richard Nixon to just think about this for a moment. Richard Nixon served one term and then resigned shortly into his second term in office. In that one term in office, because when he came into office the second time, it was just a shit ton of issues right off the bat with the whole Watergate thing. In that one term in office, Richard Nixon signed Title IX, that's women in college sports. He founded the Environmental Protection Agency, our clean air and water. He founded OSHA, which is safe workplace environments. He ended the military draft and put us onto an all-volunteer military. He's the first president to recognize China as a nation. He appointed 4 Supreme Court justices in one term. I think they were all in the first term. He did tremendous things as president. When you look at his list of accomplishments, it really does read like a liberal's wet dream. Clean air, clean water, safe workplace environment, no military draft, women in college sports. Dedicated the first, I don't know how many millions of dollars it was to fight the war on cancer, which in the late 60s was a shit ton of money. He did a lot of really good things. From a standpoint of a president that did things that benefited the American people, he is in the team photo. But he was also a crooked son of a bitch. He was a scandalous son of a bitch, and he lost his mind. And he should be remembered for all of that shit first, but also recognized for the other shit. Now, on to what J.D. Vance said. If Watergate happened today, it would be about a 12-hour news cycle. That's not a flex, Tiger. Just because your boss is so utterly corrupt and criminal in nature that Watergate pales in comparison to what he does, that doesn't mean that it was wrong to take down the presidency of Richard Nixon with Watergate. Which, by the way, for those of you who don't understand Watergate, Richard Nixon wasn't even involved in Watergate. He had no fucking part in it. Watergate was a group of people a group of Republican conservatives breaking into Democratic offices in the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. Richard Nixon had nothing to do with it, but when it came out that it happened, he was so fearful, or that when it was about ready to come out that it happened, who it was and this, that, the other, he was so fearful that it was going to be negative for the Republican Party and himself that he participated in the cover-up of it. That's what sunk Richard Nixon. He had nothing to do with the break-in itself. His paranoia and his vanity almost is what sank him. But yeah, I know you guys have seen other content creators do videos about this particular segment from J.D. Vance, but The fact that J.D. Vance doesn't see that if Watergate couldn't take down a president today, that means that the shit that's going on today is that much worse than Watergate, then he truly is blind. Or is this where MAGA starts telling us that Watergate wasn't an issue? Is this where MAGA starts going, well, yeah, Tom, you don't understand what you're talking about. It wasn't even really that big of a crime. They just broke into the other party's offices. So you're saying that that's now the standard. The Democrats should be breaking into the Republicans' offices and the Republicans should be breaking into the Democratic offices? Really?